habits? They're so good for us, or are they? I challenge you to take a pad and a pencil or a pen and write down everything that you do in the first hour of the day that is habit, that you don't think about, that you just do as a habit. Habits support us, but also unavoidably sometimes hurt us. Think about the habit of what you do when you first get up in the morning. My habit is to get up and make coffee. Coffee for my wife and for myself. In fact, I have this little routine or habit so well down I can almost do it asleep. In fact, I'm often kind of semi-sleepy when I'm doing it. What about you? What's your habit? First thing in the morning. Most of us get up and go to the bathroom because that's a necessity. We could not use the bathroom, but that would be kind of messy. We've been taught by habit, by our parents, and by society to use the bathroom. It just is. It's obviously more healthy, more hygienic, and not as messy. But if you lived out in the wild, would that be what you do first thing in the morning? Would it be go walk away from your camp, find somewhere to go to the bathroom, and then come back? My habit first thing in the morning is obviously, yes, I go use the bathroom. I put on my dressing gown and then I go make coffee. Usually I make coffee for both of us. I make two different kinds of coffee. In fact, my wife prefers drip, so I make her drip, and I make myself espresso. Yeah, that maybe explains why sometimes I'm a bit hyper. But anyway, I make espresso. I'm just so unconsciously habituated to doing it, I don't even think about it. But there are so many things that we do that are habit. I have actually seen and talked to people who have driven all the way home without noticing what actually occurred. I've been in the car with someone who drives home, and then I say to them, "Oh, what was the name of that street that we just went by?" And they don't remember. Habits. They just drove home. I remember reading an article from about California and the highway system, and a local community was putting in a new stop sign and then new traffic lights. And because they understood that people have habits in the way that they drove, what they did was park a police car one block before they were going to install and then switch on traffic lights. So the police car and then a sign saying new traffic light would go up about 60 days before they actually were turned on. You see, when we see a police car, what's our habit? We slow down and we look around. And then we notice that there's a flashing light, not turned on red, but to remind us. We are so ingrained in our habits. Now, is that good or is it bad? Well, it depends on whether or not you are making decisions about coffee or your life based on habits. Some habits. There's a certain store, drugstore that I go to pick up my medications once every now and then, and right down the aisle from where the pickup area is are potato chips. And my habit has been to pick up a bag of potato chips and buy both together. In fact, it's so habitual that when I forgot recently, the clerk behind the counter, very nice young lady, said, "Oh, you forgot your potato chips." And I started to think about habits. Now, do I really need the extra calories to potato chips? No, but I like the taste. I'm habituated to it like I am my coffee. So that was an easy one to change. It just meant going a slightly different direction. So instead of going down that particular aisle in the drugstore, I now go down a different aisle so that I can avoid picking up potato chips. You see, I know my habits, but do you know yours? And your habits about how you behave with people. Here in Victoria, British Columbia, there's a habit that if you're on the bus, when you get off the bus, you say thank you to the driver for driving you home. And I see it all the time, and people quite like it, and I know that the drivers feel quite appreciated. But there's not always that way. In Vancouver, when I was last there, and I was on a bus, I didn't notice that they did that, but I did it, and people watched me, and I could see a few odd looks on faces, but the driver appreciated it. I have a habit of really thanking people who are in service to me, because I was in the service industry for 25 years, and I remember being ignored. When I stand in the grocery line, I make a habit of looking for the name on the name tag, and I say good morning or good afternoon to that person, and it's often quite shocking for them. But what's your habit? Do you have money-saving habits, or do you have money-spending habits? Do you have food habits that work for you, or do you have food habits that don't work for you? The only way I was able to manage size and proportions of food was to put the food on different plates, because I grew up in a house that when I was there, my mother would say, "Finish what's on your plate." So if you had a big plate, you finished everything on the plate. So I started putting food on a smaller plate. And that cut down, deliberately cut down my consumption of calories and food. I don't really, it's working somewhat, but exercise, for example, is a habit. Once you get past it and you get used to, oh, I'm working this muscle, oh, I'm feeling this muscle, to, oh, it feels so good to work out. Habits. Habits about the way you treat yourself. Do you actually treat other people before you treat yourself? Or do you ignore everybody else when you walk into the office because you're thinking about going to work? One good friend of mine, now this is a few years ago, I went to work with him one day because I was going to do a communications seminar for him. It was a small office, but I was going to talk about communications. And so I had my facilitator hat on, and I was watching and observing. And what I observed is that when he walked in, the people changed, because he had a furrowed brow, and he walks very fast, and it looks urgent, and he usually gets into his office before he talks to anyone. Well, as soon as he closed the door, I said, "Well, why did you do that?" He said, "Do what?" I said, "Do you realize that you walked past the reception, down the hallway, and into your office without speaking to anyone, without acknowledging one person in the process? And you walked by I think, about 6 or 7 people, and the office wasn't completely full. He said, I don't think about it, it's just habit. And now you have to think about, on the reverse side, if somebody walks past you deeply with their face deeply in the thinking mode, it doesn't, people's thinking face is not the same as their interactive face. So it would be easy to interpret that they are frustrated, ignoring you, and potentially upset. He was just stunned, and I said, well, it's just habit. Most people, when they go to get in their car, are not thinking about their car. They press the clicker, or some might put the key in, but they sit down in the car, they put the key in, they do the seat belt up, and they turn it on, and they fire it up, and they get ready to go. Maybe they check the mirrors, and they pull out. And that's where, interestingly enough, according to police accidents, most accidents take place in the first mile or the last mile of a drive. Well, actually, I would say even closer than that. More accidents happen as you enter from your driveway into the main road than you do when you're driving, because when you're actually doing that, you're not really paying attention. You're in habit mode. Your brain is working up and getting connected to everything that you know about driving. You don't sit there and think about it. You just do it, and you do it by habit. Habit is powerful. Stepping off the curb without looking in a busy traffic area will get you injured, upset, or maybe even killed. So it's a good habit to have. Look twice either way as you cross the street. That was drilled into me as a kid until it became a habit. But what habits do you have that no longer serve you? Are you in current reality? Most of us, when we walk in now, turn on a computer, and one of the first things we do is open up the emails. How do I know that? Well, statistically, that's true, but it's also, I've observed myself. We want to know who wants help or who's got stuff for us. We look at our email. One efficiency article I read said that you should open your email 5 minutes after you've gotten into your office, before you start your day, so that you can take time to work out a list of what you need to focus on for that day. That's efficiency. Get yourself ready. Instead, what we do is turn on our computer and read the emails, or listen to the flashing light and listen to our voicemails. Most of us want to help or serve other people. So it's natural. Well, what's there? Who do I need? What is it? Did I get this? Did I get that? Does this? And so our habit takes place and takes control of what we're doing. But habit can be dangerous, particularly in intimate relations. If you have a habit of walking in and just saying hi and dropping your stuff and hanging up your coat, instead of listening to the voice that says hi to you and recognizes you, and listening to understand it, to hear it, as it got stress in it, is there a particular message there? All of us know the certain sound I did of my mother when she was irritated with me, and she would say, Jeffrey. I knew that there was hi, Jeffrey, or hi, how was school, then Jeffrey. So listening to the sounds instead of responding to habits might be a really good idea for your relationships. You might try it. Says he. What other habits? Most people don't pay attention to their weight until they go up to deal with their belt. I know that sounds funny, but when your waist is bigger than your belt will do up, or your pants will do up, or your jeans will do up, is an indicator. And as soon I've heard it and I've said it, oh, I need to lose some weight. Whereas if one paid attention to habits and portions and time and meditation, perhaps you wouldn't need to buy a new pair of jeans and a bigger belt. Now, am I being kind of sticky here? I am. I'm trying to get and have you think about the habits that you've got. You see, money, which is called the root of all evil, which I don't believe, money's good. It's useful. It gets lots of things done for us, and having plenty of it, it feels rather good. But it's our little habits with money that has it disappear or grow. I have one friend who's quite cognizant of how much money he has, and he sets himself a budget. His budget is natural and accommodates everything he wants, and everything else he's got a habit of sort of going, well, okay, but he doesn't spend it. So he can manage the flow of life by his natural habit. Now, I grew up when whatever was in your pocket, you could spend. So as an adult, what I had in my pocket, I would spend. Instead of going, do I need this? I had the habit of, yes. And then when I discovered credit cards, that was even easier to say yes. Credit card companies and marketing companies say to you yes all the time. They want you to get into the habit of having what you want. See, is it okay to have everything that you want whenever you want it? That's a moral question. But from a financial point of view, it isn't a moral question. It is a budget question. Can I afford this? Getting into the habit of spending your future using a credit card is a difficult habit to break. You deserve this, says one credit card company. You are richer than you think, says another. And what they want, of course, is you to get into the habit of paying down minimal balances until you're making regular payments that you don't notice habitually, that you really don't need to do, instead of managing your own habits. Marketing companies are very good at getting you to develop your habits. I used to buy my espressos at Starbucks because it was on the way to my office when I lived in Vancouver. My habit was to buy either a cappuccino or a double espresso or Americano, and I would vary it up. But there I was, dropping anywhere between, $5 and $7 every day, and even on lunchtimes. Habit. It was built into my habit. I walked the same way every day, rain or shine, because I didn't live far from my office. And so I would stop and I would buy my coffee and probably a Danish, and I would take it and eat it at my desk. Even if sometimes I'd only just finished breakfast 30 minutes before. Habits are so powerful. Take a moment and write down all of your habits that you have every day. Well, at least do it from wake up to 10 a.m. and notice what things are you doing that help you and what things are you doing that don't help you. There's something I'm going to sort of briefly touch on now and talk about in the next podcast, and that is living in the present or living in current reality. They both mean the same thing. Most of us don't live in current reality. We live in a future reality, or we live a way that we've been doing because of habit. Habits, very powerful things, some to support you, going and doing your exercise on a regular basis, doing your stretching, taking your medication, phoning parents or children and connecting with people. Good habits, one would say. Eating that extra, serving of ice cream after a fulfilling and healthy dinner, or picking up that bag of chips on the way to pick up a prescription, and they're not so healthy habits. And obviously those are mine, not yours. I don't know what your habits are. I hope that you are in the habit of listening to me. I wish you well. Take care. All the best. Jeffrey.